Hi, this is Matt with the Intergalactic Herald. Welcome to my Star OS Week in Review podcast. This is podcast number 66. Any articles or videos mentioned here can be found on my website at intergalacticherald.com. Look for News Recap 115. So just a quick summary, not much happening from Star Atlas team, so I'll kind of do more of some my general thoughts, state of Star Atlas, and some of my journeys actually with Starbase and the Sly Assistant. But before I get to that, just a couple things about projects I'm working on. One, my merch store, Intergalactic Gear, that's at intergalacticgear.com, is open for business. However, I'm only selling one mug. I got all the technical things created, which was a major milestone, but creating additional products is, it's a different phase of the project. But I am, if you go to the website, intergalacticgear.com, I do have a merch survey, so that will help guide some of the products I'll be putting up next as I prioritize that. So again, please go to intergalacticgear.com. If you're looking to buy a Star Atlas mug, you can get one. Otherwise, please fill out the merch survey. And then also I'm on the back burner, at least, still interested in starting a paid Star Atlas community for gamers, particularly people who don't want to join a guild. So kind of think of this as a non-guild guild if you want to, but it's really a place for Star Atlas gamers to hang out and chat if they don't want to stay in the main Star Atlas Discord. So I do have an interest survey up there to see if people are interested in this. Please go to intergalacticcoalition.com and fill out that interest survey. So we'll go ahead and get into the content. Again, as I mentioned, there wasn't really anything major from the Star Atlas team this past week. And the Star Atlas brew that occurred was more about community updates. So if you're interested in hearing some other things, other community members, please do check that out. Again, you can go to my website, intergalacticherald.com. Look for News Recap number 115 for that. So anyways, just a couple of my ramblings on, kind of call this segment the state of Star Atlas. So I was doing some thinking about different things that came up and came up with this concept of kind of what are the incentives to engage in Star Atlas. So again, as longtime listeners know, and anybody following Star Atlas, there's a couple different things. There's the marketplace, if you just want to buy and sell things, trying to get an arbitrage advantage there, which again, I guess that's a game. So if that's your interest, go for it. But then there's the UE5 version, the showroom. In fact, I actually kind of lost track of it, or I haven't lost track of it. There just hasn't been much after the Surge play. In fact, Beyond Horizon just did a video where he was going through the small and extra small ships in the racing module, and I kind of had, I'm supposed to be racing. So again, one of the things on my long-term list is to just check it out, but again, other things have come up and even game things. But anyways, there is the browser-based game, the Sage Star-based. And so I, over time, mentioned that I do enjoy or have enjoyed real-time strategy games. And so I was kind of thinking of the difference between Star-based and a real-time strategy. Because it's been mentioned, this is our real-time strategy version. But I'm like, it doesn't really feel like the classic case of it. And the reason I bring that up, or the way I think about that, is when you're in an RTS, you're really investing your time to play. So the resources are already in game. So you buy the game, and that again gives you access to play it. So in the game, there are resources, and I'll just pick on Age of Empires as a classic RTS that maybe people have heard of. And so there's things like food, wood, and rock, and gold, I think. Yeah, stone. Yeah, and you go and harvest those, or your villagers do, and they bring them back to the town square, and then as you accumulate more of those, you can either train more villagers, or you can trade those off and build things, and then from those things, say, for example, you build a barracks, and you can train different soldiers, or you build a stable, and you can train knights or something like that. So, but all of the resources are in game. You don't need to pay for anything other than just the game itself. Now, Star Atlas, of course, is different in that, where you have to buy something. Again, you could say this is the free to play, but again, you still need something. So you have to buy a ship, and in that ship, you can go out and mine and maybe get some resource that then you craft. Or you could go ahead and buy claim stakes, and then you get the four main resources: the fuel, food, toolkits, and ammo. So, but again, and I guess you could say, well, they're not apples and oranges comparison. Yeah, of course they're not. But again, I'm just comparing it to a real-time strategy. So the key, I think, that's the difference is the amount of assets has a direct relationship to the amount of resources you can obtain. And by this, I mean in Star Atlas. So if you have a small ship, you will only be able to gain small resources. If you have a bigger ship, you can gain more quantity of those resources. But in a real-time strategy game, you are just investing your time. If you set up your villagers to go out and you're patient enough and you defend your village, you can mine until those resources exhausted. And that's more in the single player. I guess if you're in the multiplayer one, I'm not really sure. I guess at some point you exhaust all resources, but you can always kind of expand the map and things like that. So I guess where this little thought was, so you do need to buy more resources to be able to, you need to buy more assets, i.e. ships or claim stakes, to get enough resources to be able to engage those production cycles. So you can get more resources in a real-time strategy game by having more villagers, but the villagers come from the thing, so you can build up to it. So far, at least, doesn't seem like there's a way to scale based upon growth. Now, again, that's not saying you can't do it, but in order to get another ship, you have to have Atlas or USDC. Well, if you're paying more, then that's out of the game. If you're trying to get Atlas, well, now you have to go through. And the present play game style is that you get Atlas from loyalty points, and loyalty points come from only certain things. So again, it's actually restricted the thing. And I know there's lots of discussions within the Star House community about are small players hindered by the current gameplay. Well, again, whether they are or not, it does feel like there will be, again, this is all we have. So, but I kind of was also thinking about all this, comparing it to a real life economy, because we have been told that Star House is trying to develop a virtual economy, not a game, but I guess a game, but also that there's a virtual economy and that we can exchange what we find there for real money. So again, this is where the whole gaming metaphor definitely breaks down, because this just hasn't happened before. But in a real life economy, we're basically exchanging our time for money. We go to a job. And again, I'll just stay in the employer, not if you're starting your own business or something. But, whether you're an employee or in the gig economy, say driving for Uber, you're definitely exchanging your time for money. And that money that we get in return for that allows us to do the things we want to do or our needs. But at the end of the day, it's all self-serving. And the reason I bring this up is kind of the theme that's been going on is like, are people currently playing the game in a, quote, self-serving manner? And as I mentioned last week, Michael Wagner kind of came out saying, well, yeah, duh. People are always going to be kind of self-serving. And so, but I was kind of thinking about, again, in the real world, there are definitely some community aspects. And again, I'm talking real world, not the game, real world. But we all go to work as a single unit. Yeah, maybe you have a family, and so your partner and yourself are doing it for your family. But again, that's still close. I mean, I don't know. Some people support their brothers and sisters or something like that, but you're not necessarily going to work to then have money to give to your next door neighbor or something. And again, I'm being really simplified here because obviously there's charity and not everybody has the opportunity to work, and but again, real world is complicated. So, but basically this is where the government comes into play at different levels, local, state, national. And our mechanism for that is that we pay taxes. So in that sense, we do have a role in the community aspects. Staying out of the politics, I mean, we all want firefighters, a dedicated team that if a house is on fire, they come. And we don't pay per fire, we pay into a collective pool that pays for it. And again, I'm not getting into, our government's funding public services. Again, it's complicated, but I'm just going with the idea, again, paying taxes. But taxes, again, simplifying again, are sort of related to factors like income. So if you have more money or income, you pay more taxes. And the smaller player, or in this case, smaller person, pays less. Again, I'm simplifying taxes. It's much more complicated than all this. But what I realized, and again, I'm not saying that it'll never happen because I think there's been talk about this, but that's not the type of system that's in Star Atlas currently. So, the large players are able to earn more, which again, large corporations earn more in real life. Small players earn, but there's no kind of common thing we're putting into, or in this case, that a larger player gets quote unquote taxed more than a smaller player. And there's been some discussions about how that the one common thing are Solana fees. And I'm still trying to figure out exactly how much those are occurring, because I'm still not 100% sure, because some people say, well, if you do this, you'll get your money back and things like that. Again, I've just not played Starbase enough to know all of the ins and outs of this, so I just don't have any my own experience to do that. But we do know on the blockchain that a transaction, regardless of the amount inside of it, is cost the same. So that is not a quote-unquote scalable to what you're doing. Now, again, that's not necessarily something Solana can do, because, again, they're treating every transaction equally. But in Star Atlas, the game, those transactions, whether it be moving, warping, crafting, or whatever, are treated the same. So, again, these are just, comparing this to the thing. So the next thought in this kind of state of Star Atlas segment is, in Starbase, so why do you even play it? And again, I'm slowly, or after I wrote all this, I actually did start playing. But what's different about Starbase than Labs, the predecessor, was this concept of upgrading and upkeeping the Starbases. But I like, well, why? I mean, what's the benefit to me? And again, I'm not trying to say this is self-serving, but again, going back to my comment about the real world, if I'm going to do something, I want something back. And this is, I think, the thing that's missing is, if I were to help with upkeep, i.e. put some food in, maybe I get something, but it's not equivalent to the time or the effort that I put into it. So anyways, that's on the upgrading. Now, the upkeep is so we can craft, but again, just this last week, the team came out, well, we're going to change that. So, guess why matter. But on that same vein, I still go, why are we even crafting anything? What is the benefit of building up? Now, you could say, well, if you wanted to go get biomass and then craft out the food, and food is what you use to fund your ships, okay, that makes perfect sense. But when we get into these more complicated things, I don't even know what they are, because I just have no reason to figure them out. They don't go anywhere. Now, again, I know long term they might actually do something. In this case, they're, I believe, necessary to help upgrade the star bases. But again, why do I need to upgrade them when I have the Central Space Station? So again, trying to wrap all this back up to my original comment, our original statement was, what's the incentive to engage? And I'm just not seeing those incentives yet to play Star Atlas. So is it fun? I mean, that could still be an incentive. We'll see. Got to try it. And I'll talk about that shortly. Is it entertaining? Not compared to other forms of entertainment. I mean, scrolling through social media, you get something, watching TV, you get something, reading a book, you get something, clicking and moving things. Yeah, I'm not calling that entertainment. And then the ultimate one that lots of people talk about is, can you earn income? Because again, that's sort of been the promise of the play to earn thing. And if the only thing that you can cash out for real income is Atlas, then you have to go through all these steps to get the LP to then claim it, but you're competing against the whales for it and all that. So I guess to summarize, yeah, I'm not really seeing a lot of the incentives to play. Now, you could say, but I still enjoy it. Well, that's fine, and that's to your benefit. But there is a lot, I think, of that incentives encouraged. And again, just to wrap this up, the incentive to go to work every day is not because you may enjoy the job, but you need the money because you need to pay your mortgage, or you need to pay your rent, or you need to buy food. So the incentive is basic needs. Obviously, a game doesn't have those. So anyways, like I said, there wasn't a lot of news from the Star Atlas team, so I'm just rambling. So moving on to the next section. So I actually did finally get into some of the Starbase stuff. This time I actually was trying to figure out more about the upkeep. So I went ahead and transferred some food to the CSS, and for that 1,000 food, I got a 3,000 LP. So I'm like, oh, okay, so here's where LP comes into play. So last time I figured out, again, moving a ship, scanning for SDUs, mining, crafting, those are all still the same mechanics that were in Labs. The new one is this upkeep, which again is just food. So next I want to try to figure out upgrading, and I couldn't figure it out, but then it realized that the Central Space Station is already at the highest level, so there's no reason to do that. So it obviously is upgrading the other star bases that exist within your sector or in your faction, and that's where the toolkits come in. But as I just mentioned, I don't know why I would upgrade another star base if the Central Space Station does everything I need. So again, the incentives to the faction, the incentives to rewards, entertainment, whatever, don't understand why upgrading a starbase makes any sense, except I would assume if I donated food and I get LP for upkeep of the Starbase, if I donate toolkits and upgrade, I get more LP. Okay, cool. But the only purpose of LP so far is to trade it into Atlas, which, again, I guess, but goes back to the whole scale thing. Can a person with a small fleet, or say the fleet I have, actually, get something when the whales come in and do whatever they want to do? So, again, just trying to figure things out. Don't have it all figured out, but I'm starting to understand a little more where there's some definitely community dissatisfaction with the structure of the gameplay now. Now, there's cheating, just the way it's done. So anyways, I went ahead and tried to exchange that I just exchanged 1,000 LP just to try. And I was projected to get 0.181 Atlas at the end of the epoch. And I have to go back to claim that, but yeah, it's nothing. So again, maybe it works when you scale out, but my little test was like, I don't get it. So, and then the last thing I did to just figure out the game mechanics is I did the crafting. And so I just took some of the biomass that I had mined just to prove I could, turned it into fuel. There was a fee. It was 11 cents USDC, I'm pretty sure. And I earned 1 XP for crafting, and I came out with like 46 food. So yeah, 11 cents is nothing, but considering that I didn't do a lot, yeah, I see where the scale has to be there to make this all kind of relate. So anyway, so just to summarize my thoughts on this, one had to do still a bunch of the control F5 to refresh the screen to see the crafting activity start. So again, still seems like there's Solana issues, but most of my transaction went through, so that was a improvement. Most of the fees of moving around and things like that didn't seem too bad, but the crafting seemed pretty tough. And again, if crafting is the only way you can, or one of the mechanisms you can use, XP, yeah, it didn't seem to go enough. Overall, again, just not enough Atlas earned, though I didn't check to see how much the food was worth on the marketplace. I know people are just mining resources and selling on the marketplace, which is fine, I guess, but seems like you want to stay in the game, not move out. Anyway, I don't know. There's almost too many things and too many variables, and I'm not the quote-unquote spreadsheet gamer, so... But I did think, again, why go through all this work just to earn Atlas? Again, not incentivized, didn't have much fun. Again, for other people, this may be it. But I'm definitely struggling to find out a reason why I want to go into Starbase to just help with upkeep and upgrading, where the other mechanisms, sure, I guess if I wanted to build up a surplus of resources for future game things, I guess. But again, this is just rambling. This doesn't have any plans or things. So the very last topic, I did decide to switch gears and learn more about the Sly Assistant. So if you haven't heard about it before, one of the guilds, Sly, one of the people in their Groove, actually created an assistant that works inside of both the Old Sage Labs and now moved it forward to the Starbase and basically allows for automation. And again, if you've listened to me before, there's a unspoken thing about automation that if it's available to everybody, the team doesn't seem to be against it, but if it's manipulative and closed for just single people, then I guess they don't do it. But again, it's very vague. But apparently the Sly Assistant, as it's called, has garnered widespread usage. Everybody talks about using it, so it felt like, okay, finally maybe I should go ahead and take a look. So the first thing I did is on their site, and you can get some of these links if you go to the guide on my website, though I need to update that as I'm finding more things. So just real briefly for how to get it installed, they have a README file that has some information. I did watch some YouTube videos that Beyond the Horizon put out a few months ago that had to deal with it. Joined their Sly Discord, and I found another guide, which was very helpful. So basically you go through, you install this browser plugin called TamperMonkey. Then you can load the Sly Assistant scripts, so they're just JavaScript, so they're just code. And that's it. So then I tried to get started, and it just didn't seem to be working. And again, not saying the documentation is terrible, but again, there are people building it, YouTube videos. I mean, there's no like step 1, step 2, step 3 type of thing. But as I look through the Sly Discord, apparently that day Solana had a lot of issues, so just bad timing. So I had fortunately already stopped for the night. So the next day, tried it again. It seemed to be working. Then I started playing around with some of the settings. I ran for a while just to see what would happen, and really needed to get into that new guide. So that's sort of where I ended it at that point, just, trying to get into it. So I'm going to still play a little more with the Slide Assistant. I'm, both intrigued because I have an IT background, so some of this stuff seems very straightforward, not what it's doing, but the process. So I'm just kind of curious about that. So anyway, so that's pretty much it. Again, it was another waiting week from the team. Not much there. Atlas Brew didn't have much. We've been told next week there might be an economy Atlas Brew discussion, so that'll be interesting. And crew cards are always on the horizon. So anyways, just to wrap it up, thanks for listening. Again, if you'd like to be on this podcast, I'd love to have some guests. We could talk about the news of the past week or just Star Atlas in general. Also interested in interviewing any Star Atlas builders, content creators, or anybody on the team. Again, if you're interested in buying some Star Atlas merch, please go to intergalacticgear.com. Again, just have a Star Atlas mug presently, but we'll be working on adding some more products there. And please do fill out my merch survey, so that'll help me know which products people might be interested in purchasing. And if you're interested in joining kind of a non-guild community of Star Atlas gamers who don't want to join guilds but nevertheless still want to kind of talk about Star Atlas but don't want to hang out in the Star Atlas Discord, please go to intergalacticcoalition.com and fill out my interest survey. And if I get enough people that are interested, it will be a paid community. That's partly to offset the cost of the software. The software is different than Discord, allows for threaded discussions primarily as the primary method, and email notifications. So if you like to follow a certain conversation, you could just click follow and then you get an email when somebody does it. So it works much more asynchronously than the Discord chat, and you can come and go and not have to constantly check. So anyways, please goes to Intergalactic Coalition if you're interested in that. And that wraps it up. So thanks very much for listening. Hope you have a great week ahead. This is Matt with the Intergalactic Herald.